You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Public safety has been such a big deal, not only in the media, but in communities. Talking about defunding the police, crime rates going up, murder rate going up, just a lot of public safety issues. And one of the big ones has been this massive pivot on defund the police to refund the police. That's what we're talking about today. We got a few articles that you're going to want to stick around for these. It's just like, it's crazy stuff. So I'm going to read you some crazy articles so that you don't have to. You'll just listen to me babble about them. I read some stuff that before I started doing this daily podcast, I would have never looked at because it's not good stuff to have running around in your head. And I do it because it's basically my job now to bring you these interesting storylines right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. So I'm able to kind of compartmentalize how I'm able to read this and not go berserk. But it's some wild stuff going on. And can we pinpoint this on the defunding the police? No. But it certainly didn't help either. All right, before we jump on in, if you're new here, my name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news that a lot of reasonable people say, hey, that guy's normal. He's reading normal news. What's the dealio? That's what we're doing here. All right, so panicked Democrats switch from defund to refund the police. Before we get into that one, we're going to go to one where the gentleman who sent me this, he said, how is that reimagining and rethinking working out? I got to read this one. You just got to hear this one. Hillsborough man shoots at mental health workers, police in standoff. A man experiencing a mental health crisis was taken into custody after more than a day-long standoff with police. Shocking this didn't make it in the national media, right? It's like, oh, police took a Hillsborough man, a neighborhood in Portland area in Oregon, police took a Hillsborough man having a mental health crisis into custody Saturday, August 21st, after he shot at mental health workers and police during more than a day-long standoff. The suspect, Ian Tunger, 55, was lodged at the Washington County Jail on charges, including first-degree attempted assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and menacing after being taken to a local hospital, police said. No injuries were reported following the incident. Concerned family members called for mental health workers to respond to Tunger's home in the whatever block after 9 o'clock on Friday. So when they showed up, Tunger reportedly fired a gun at the mental health workers, who fled the scene and called 911. How often do we talk about reimagining, rethinking, bringing out the social worker who's unarmed and not trained in these circumstances, and they get killed? Or shot, maimed, harmed, whatever you want to say. Is that what we want to see? Is that literally our solution? In this instance, I'm going to say, didn't work out, right? The reimagining and rethinking in this case, what did they end up doing? 911, right? And even the cops, there are 9 different entities that were called out to solve this standoff. Tunger reportedly fired a gun at the mental health care workers who fled the scene and called the police. Hillsborough Police Department officers secured the scene and requested additional resources from the Sheriff's Office's Tactical Negotiations Team, a unit made up of skilled officers and medics. After receiving a warrant, police entered Tunger's home where they found him alone. Officers and the members of an interagency crisis negotiation team attempted to negotiate with him. This guy is off his rocker. For the next 30 hours, officers attempted numerous tactics and strategies to bring the man out of the house and surrender. During this time, the man in crisis repeatedly wielded firearms and on 2 occasions fired at officers who remained securely behind armored rescue vehicles. Last time I checked, social workers did not have armored rescue vehicles. And we wonder why the police roam around in military-styled rigs. Why do they do that? Why do they need that? Here's the answer. Yes, sometimes they do. Armored rescue vehicles. Being rescued from being shot, from a crazy dude. Am I misconstruing this? I don't think so. Law enforcement then contacted local mental health professionals and physicians to ask for creative strategies to get the man to surrender, officials said. Any which way this goes down, it's probably not pretty, right? I mean, it's just an ugly, ugly scenario. On Saturday, a guy's just having a total mental. And I've been around folks. I've been around family members that have had this happen. You can't control it. You can't. It's going to be okay. Tomorrow will be a new day. Why don't you just take a nap? No, they're in, some kind of psychotic break, and it's very difficult to get back to reality. And for them, there's no choice. I mean, you medicate them up, do something along those lines. That's what we're talking about, right? Court records show Tunger has never been convicted of any misdemeanor or felony crimes. The incident drew assistance from agencies around the state, including Oregon State Police, Salem Police Department, Lane County, Marion County, Clackamas County Sheriff's Offices, and the Portland Police Bureau, and a partridge in a pear tree. No, there was a couple of other, I read in a different article, and there was a couple of other entities too. The drone team was out there, flying a drone, see what they could see there. I mean, they're pulling out all the stops here. Initially, we thought, okay, social worker can take care of this. Not so much. After being shot at, they retreated and dialed 911. So there's your reimagining and rethinking for you right there. That's one instance. Now there are some instances where this is going to be okay. You don't need to have the police come out. All right. If I'm making a phone call that somebody in my family is having one of these breakdowns, I probably want a cop there. I do. I probably do. I mean, they're trained in this stuff. They're like, okay, we're going to call this, and this entity and get them here so that my family member doesn't take somebody else out. I want my family member to survive. I do. I've been in that spot before. I'm like, this isn't going to end well. Like literally, this isn't going to end well. If we go down this road here, somebody's going to die. Straight up. That's an awful position to be in. Awful position. I don't know. All right, let's move on. How about those Mariners? So how about this one? A nude man stabs a second nude man on Seattle sidewalk. This happened not long ago. This is quite shocking as well. A naked man stabbed another naked man on Tuesday morning in Seattle, according to the Seattle police. Just after 8 a.m. on Tuesday, just a Tuesday morning, you've got through Monday. Tuesday, you and your partner are having a disagreement. Just after 8 a.m. on Tuesday, officers responding to a noise disturbance call heard from witnesses that one naked man had stabbed a second naked man on the sidewalk. Not good. One witness had already taken the victim to the hospital before the police arrived. Other witnesses told police the other man was last seen around a corner where police found him at the entrance to an apartment building with what appeared to be a self-inflicted wound to his neck. He cut his own throat. The man lost a significant amount of blood and was unresponsive. That is horrible. Seattle officers supplied medical aid until Seattle fire arrived. The identities of either man are unknown at this time. People having mental breakdowns and this kind of stuff happening. Two naked dudes out on the street just stabbing. I mean, send a social worker to that? I don't know. I could reimagine and rethink that not going well. Let's look at just another story here. Okay. Let's just take just a peek, just a quick one. Nude woman hits officer in face after threatening people with knife. These are legit straight up stories. This is Cairo. This is our major media here in Seattle. Seattle police said a nude woman hit an officer as she was being arrested for threatening people with a knife on Friday. Officers said they were called to the 200 block of Broadway East in Capitol Hill neighborhood around 9:15 p.m. It's still light here at 9:15. It's getting darker-ish. After the nude woman approached people, brandished a knife, made threats, and then ran away. She continued north on Broadway East and made more threats to people in the 900 block. So she went 7 blocks, almost half a mile, naked with a knife, yelling at people. Quite a scene, quite a scene. Officers caught up with the woman at the 2300 block in the Eastlake neighborhood after she brandished the knife and threatened several other people. All right, so she made it another 16 blocks north. You made it another mile north. Well done. That is some travel naked with a knife. And nobody, what's going on there? It's just a naked woman. Don't mind her. She's got a knife. What could possibly go wrong here? This is Seattle. This is normal. Police said she hit an officer in the face while officers were arresting her. While she was being booked into the King County Jail, police said she attacked 2 jail officers. All right. So do we send out a social worker on this one? Hey, you got a naked woman. Send out a social worker. Probably not. Probably not, right? Probably not. She's taking pops at, fist in the face of a cop and attacking 2 jail officers. She is off her rocker. This is an example of where the whole reimagining and rethinking might not apply. I'm just saying. Again, no psychologist, no social worker here. I'm a real estate guy, but I'm going to say you need something a little bit more than probably a unarmed social worker to deal with that issue. Now that we've covered those 3 interesting human stories, let's get to the main topic here, right? Talking about refunding the police versus defunding. It was short and it wasn't sweet. Democratic Party's quest to defund police forces, an act in which it kowtowed to its hard left-wing base, has come to a very bitter end. The resulting surge in violent crime has produced a massive public backlash that threatens the careers of elected Democrats throughout the nation. Naturally, the endangered species is trying to distance itself swiftly from the wreckage that defund the police left behind. Yeah, you've still got a couple of nutcases out there. You got a couple of people on the squad saying, defund the police has to happen. And the rest of them are like, shh, no, shh. We're not doing that anymore. That was 2020. It's 2021. Crime went up. Whew, we need some more cops on the street. Literally, that's the pivot. Mayors of Portland and Seattle, who respectively slashed police funding by $15 million and $7.5 million last year. All right, it wasn't necessarily the mayors, and the mayors in all fairness of Portland and Seattle, it was the city councils. They're the ones that are just out for blood. They've got the real nut jobs. The mayors in both cities said, defunding the police? Yeah, can't really agree with you on that one. All right. But it happened. So because of political pressure, we want to defund the police. We don't really have a go-to in the absence of all the police officers, but we're going to reimagine and rethink, and something good will come out of this. We're sure of it. And then crime goes through the roof and people are like, oh, wow, what happened here? This isn't good. Defund? No, refund. And by refund, we mean pump some more money into the police departments, right? So we had a $15 million budget cut and $7.5 million budget cut last year, and are now moving to restore those budgets amid spikes in violent crime made worse because police officers are choosing to retire rather than stay where their work is scorned by their employers. All right, so those are some harsh words, and you could have couched that a little bit differently. You could have said, slashed and spikes and violent crime. All right, a little bit of drama here. Granted, understand that. But the guts of it are absolutely true. Something similar is happening in Chicago, where last year Mayor Lori Lightfoot demanded that the police force leave vacant positions unfilled as part of a broader drive to cut police budgets. Lightfoot now faces a 60% increase in murders since 2019. So I've been doing some research on Chicago crime, and one of the statistics I came up with is in 2020, Chicago had 875 murders. That's up from 769 in 2019 and 459 in 2018. So we're at 875. 875 murders in Chicago, in Cook County, just the county, one county alone that has Chicago in it. 875 murders. 78% of those were black people. 78%. Almost 8 out of 10 of the 875 murders are black people. That is nuts. That's happening in her jurisdiction, Lori Lightfoot. So Lightfoot now faces a 60% increase in murders since 2019, and suddenly she sees the light. The police are not expendable, and the thin blue line between chaos and order cannot be allowed to get any thinner. She says she wants to recruit the next generation of officers. Good luck with that. That's literally what this article stated. And one of the reasons I'm reading this article is because of that sentence, because that is exactly what I think. Yeah, best of luck to you. Where are you gonna have all the cops line up? Are they just gonna line up in droves? Oh yeah, you guys screwed us all over and you hate us and you defunded us and you threatened to cut our budgets by $1 bajillion. And we put our lives on the line for you. Sure. Why wouldn't we support your community? Doesn't work like that, does it? All over the country, police forces are dwindling because officers are quitting their thankless jobs in cities run by leftists. Could that be? I think so. We're deeply sympathetic to the city communities betrayed by their political leaders. I think we all are, because none of us want to see this happen. 875 murders, 78% of them black. Yeah, those are not good numbers. Those are horrific numbers. But it's hard not to take a certain pleasure in the backlash now engulfing the political charlatans who perpetrated this disaster. Those are harsh words. Those are. Police reform has been and remains an important issue, but the left has tried to demonize the brave officers and rejected the very existence of law enforcement itself, attributing racist motives to even basic measures to suppress crime. Did that happen? Yeah, it did. It's happening. It's happening. And we wonder why crime is going up. It's not exclusively because of the defunding of the police, but it sure hasn't helped. Having fewer cops on the street, that's not the way this equation is going to go in the positive direction. Do all the reimagining and rethinking you want. You're going to have to come up with something that's been tried and true. And so far, we don't have that solution. More social workers. I read you some examples of behavior that's out there. More social workers. I don't think that's probably the answer. They get shot at, they run away. Cops, they hunker down and shoot back. That's what they do. Compounding the problem, I mean, they try and disengage and do all that other stuff, but sometimes you don't have a choice. To save all the other people in the community from being shot, killed, maimed, whatever, by one person having a breakdown, sometimes you got to take somebody out. Simple as that, right? Compounding the problem is a gaggle of irresponsible leftist prosecutors who have taken office in communities such as Philadelphia and San Francisco. In the name of racial justice, they refuse to prosecute brazen crimes and care not at all for the mostly non-white citizens whom these predators victimize. Is that going on? I think it is. Brutal. According to the FBI, the number of black murder victims rose by an astounding 23% from 2014 through 2019, more than 3 times as fast as the rise in white victims. Not only does that mean that blacks now comprise 54% of all murder victims, but it also means that nearly twice as many black people are being murdered every single year as were lynched in the entire history of the Jim Crow South. So from between 1877 and 1940, or even 1950, if you want to stretch that out, go with 1950, there were 3,959. I'm totally going off memory. It's a hair under 4,000 people that were lynched during that time period, during that 70-year time period. That's the number of black people that were lynched. And it's harsh to have to be talking about something like this, but to put that in perspective, right now, we've got about 8,000 murders happening a year. 8,000. Double, every single year, double the number of lynchings that happened during that entire 70-year period. And I looked at the study that indicated this number. And they went back and they interviewed people that were super old and alive from this period as much as they could. Went back through newspapers from black newspapers and did all kinds of research. And they came up with like an extra 700 lynchings that they weren't aware of earlier. So you've got these numbers that are just, I mean, you look at the raw numbers of what's going on out there, it is not good. I mean, look at Chicago alone. I mean, just the shootings there. Crazy. In other words, today's Democratic defund agenda inflicted more death in minority communities than back when the leaders of the same party were hiding behind white masks and burning crosses. Is that true? I mean, on the face of it, the numbers, I've read the story, I've read the study, I've read the FBI statistics. You go in and you look at those. This is what's happening. Decent people want the police to treat everyone fairly, regardless of race. I think we all want that, right? Equal justice under the law is the American way. Although it hasn't necessarily been that way, has it? So we need to fix that. How do we fix that? More training. More training means more funding, because right now you don't have enough cops to keep the streets safe as it is. As recently as 2014, all political parties seem to be on the same page with that idea. Everybody needs to be treated fairly. To that end, both conservative and liberals have advocated laudable reforms to police procedures that would maximize transparency and the rule of law while minimizing occasions for abuse or brutality. That's what we're trying to head for. It doesn't always happen. But, you know, life is messy. It just is. There's going to be some times and there's going to be people who aren't necessarily within how we want to see things happen. And you got to deal with them, just like in any community. You got rogue doctors, you got rogue lawyers, you got rogue real estate agents, although that's rare because, I don't know, real estate agents are kind of boring. You think, they talk about Hillary Clinton dressing like a real estate agent. You're like, I know what that looks like. Kind of boring, kind of middle of the road. But no one is benefiting from Democrats' push to defund the police. Is it any wonder that they are now slinking away from their scene of their own crime, trying to pretend they never even supported such a thing? Question mark? That's a good question. That does seem to be where things are headed, aren't they? Police jurisdictions all across the United States are going, oof, yeah. Well, that was a social experiment that did not end up well. And whether or not you want to believe that the reason we got there was because of the defunding of the police, hey, it's not. Exclusively, it's not. That is not the case. But it sure didn't help, did it? Now you got fewer cops to deal with a rise in crime. That's not a good thing. Why are we talking about this on a real estate podcast? Oh, a little thing out there called public safety. And it's being impacted right now. It's being impacted in the communities that the whole, social movements have, they've said, hey, this is who we're trying to protect. It's impacting those communities, the BIPOC communities, the most. Statistically, look at the stats. Stats don't lie, right? Stats don't care about your feelings. Neither do facts. So this is where we're at. Need some more cops. Good luck with that. In the meantime, you got crime going up, and the whole defund the police, that was front page news everywhere last summer, wasn't it? You couldn't turn around without seeing defund the police. And now we're kind of at that position where I never said that. I defund the police. Oh my gosh, that was my council member. That was that guy's idea. Oh, not me. That's not something we get behind. That's not something we support. You've still got some knuckleheads out there who are publicly saying that. I think they need to be taken with a grain of salt because we are kind of seeing exactly how that's working out on a national level. And so that's why a lot of what I say is defunding the police, it wasn't the main thing that's causing this rise in crime. We've had just this big set of circumstances that are responsible for this increase in crime, increase in murder, and all that stuff. And there are actually some stats that, on the surface of it, in like Chicago, look like they're going down. A lot of that had to do with the lockdowns and the Rona, and the crime that's brutal Yeah, unfortunately, that's going up. And you got fewer cops now. And so mayors and councils are like kind of going, yeah, well, I guess we need, oh man, what do we do here? Whew, this isn't a good look. If we have any more shootings on our watch, record numbers of murder, not good. Not good. Yep. They're calling for more cops. Could have told you that at the get-go. Wait a minute. Did I? I'll have to review some of my earlier podcasts and get back to you on that. I believe I did, but I don't want to be a know-it-all. How many of us are like, defund the police? Wait a minute. What? Fewer cops in the community without any real programs to replace it? I mean, even mayors of democratic cities can understand that one. And they did. Yeah. Well, this is an ongoing topic. Ongoing. We'll circle back to this one. Faux show. Okay, that's enough for me on this one. I hope you enjoyed those uplifting stories. So now purge them from your head because you don't need to think about that stuff anymore. But know that the whole pivot, that big, huge pivot that took place within about a year, it's coming back to a more reasonable position. The problem is that the people that it hinges on, those in law enforcement, they've kind of done a little shimmy off to the side and said, "Ooh, nope, we're not dealing with that." I don't really blame them. I don't think you can either. Quite a predicament we're in, isn't it? Yeah. All right. That's it. Well, to be continued. We'll do this one again, though, I'm sure. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for being part of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I will catch up with you soon. Until then, stay safe. We'll talk then. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.